AskReddit, my dad is mad at me. What's the hardest thing for you to comprehend about the American culture? How casual debt is, how easy it is to take loans and credit cards out in other people's names without their knowledge. That's why I recommend Bad Credit, the new awesome product that makes your information useless to everyone, including you. Having 2 weeks vacation, or no PTO for most. In my current country you have to take 2 weeks of mandatory leave in a row. Including public holidays I get about 7 weeks vacation a year. Edit, this got way more attention than I expected. Reading through everyone's comments, it seems there is a huge gap between those with no to little PTO and those that get a decent amount. All of this is from the goodwill of the companies you work for, and not any federally mandated leave. Where? The biggest challenge for me was sales tax. Unlike in some other countries, sales tax is not included in the listed price of goods and services in the US. Additionally, the sales tax can vary from state to state, anywhere from 0% to over 10%. You don't hear about this angle much, but it's kind of a political and cultural issue. Opponents of taxes want them very visible to the person paying them. If they are put into the prices, you are not thinking about them, annoyed by them. Super rich televangelists like this Kenneth Copeland I learned about on Reddit. I'm American and trust me, most of us are aware that these dudes are scumbags. Deleted. Deleted. College fraternities. Entering America from Canada is strange. Immediately I see billboards about abortion and religion, lol. TBF, I thought it was weird as hell that the Canadian side of Niagara Falls feels like a Vegas knockoff and the US side feels like an actual natural park. School mascots. Where I live, we just have teams and just play matches against people. In America, it's all like go East Down Eagles. You get Chaka and there would be some person in a cheapo eagle suit spinning a basketball on his fingers or something. You would have a full dramatic cheerleader dance off before your match. We just shake hands and stare at each other. Sometimes mascots aren't even animals. My school's was a comet. Comet Man was terrifying. Entrée means main course. In the 19th century, when French terms entered the US, the word entrée meant the meal between fish and roast. This usually composed of a lighter meat like lobster or chicken. When America entered the 20th century, they cut out the heartier meals like roast and made lighter meats the focus of the meal. The word entrée carried on to mean the focus of a meal to this day. In Europe, entrée kept its origin of being the beginning of the real meal. America kept the word's place in a meal, while Europe kept the word's actual French meaning. Americans love French fries, cheese, and gravy, but poutine never took off south of the border. Always found that odd. Well, yeah. We have chili cheese fries. Zero tolerance rule. Who came up with that shit? The victim is the one who is fucked. Either he gets bullied or he gets a penalty for defending himself. That's why if someone attacks you at school, you fight back as hard as possible. If you are getting punished anyway, you might as well earn it. A lot of people follow and worship politicians like they're gods, flags and all that shit. In the UK, it's universally acknowledged that we hate all politicians pretty much equally. I think this really started to change around the time reality TV became a thing. Now our entire political process is reality TV. I say this as someone old enough to remember when pretty much every person in Washington was a serious person. I speak as a Latin American, just setting that down on the table. I don't get why people think that using something from my culture or showing interest of Latin culture is culture appropriation. I've spoken to a lot of people in my culture about this thing and we all think it's alright. P.S. If you think like this, I would like to talk about it and understand where it comes from. Not mad, I just simply don't understand it. I recall some time ago some ladies from Oregon went to Mexico and learned how to make tacos from this Mexican grandmother. They took the knowledge she taught them and opened a restaurant in Oregon, and people were up in arms about cultural appropriation, and I could never quite square that. They act like they went there, broke into her house, stole the recipe and started selling them down the street. Edit. Memory is a fickle thing. I had some of the facts wrong.
https://www.snopes.com/news/2017/05/2006/cultural-appropriation-portland-burrito-shop/
Having to tip almost everywhere. It definitely makes sense at some places, but feel like we have to tip at the most random of places these days. It's so fucking weird. I was in a souvenir shop the other day where no real service was given. It wasn't even a restaurant. I was literally buying some scented candle or some shit, and sure enough, the lady flipped the screen around for me to sign and there was an automatic 25% tip added. I had to deselect it to move forward and complete the transaction. Your healthcare system, so complicated and expensive. And people going bankrupt because they get sick. What bullshittery is this? I have so many bills right now and they are all medical. Was diagnosed recently with early onset dementia and can't afford to see the doctor until I can afford it. In the meantime I can't work or barely drive. What am I supposed to do? Hearing the bald eagle screech every time I unwrap a slice of American cheese. American here. Fun fact: that stereotypical screech you commonly hear associated with the bald eagle is actually a red-tailed hawk. Bald eagles do not make that sound. They make more of a weird, way less cool, chirping sound. I was too old when I learned this for the first time. You are allowed to drive a car at 16, own guns and sign up for the military at 18. But alcohol, behold the devil's liquid, is only for 21 plus. Actually, you can join the military at 17. Lobbying. Legal bribery, what the hell? Also, why do you have to do your taxes? If the government, in the end, knows if what you paid was what you actually owed, why not just tell you? Funnily enough, both your points are related. There are many things that could be done to make filing taxes much easier, but big companies like H&M, R-Block, who make their money from doing people's taxes for them, have lobbied the government for decades to keep it so complex. Private health insurance that is tied to your employment and sucks. And yet 50% of the population vehemently defend. It's so stupid. Ah yes, I'll happily pay $200 plus of my paycheck for private insurance that covers nothing and I can't use. Wait, they'll raise our taxes or allocate different uses in my current tax expenditures. I'll pay $30 more in taxes for healthcare. What kind of communism is this bullshit? I hate it. I already pay damn close to $100 a month in Medicare I can't even use, but people call it heresy to have some kind of government healthcare system for everyone. I'm no expert, but I almost guarantee that an option for government healthcare taken out in taxes each paycheck will be substantially less than private insurance. And hell, just make it an option if you wanna opt out and keep private cool. Now private is competing with cheap government healthcare. It makes me so damn mad. LMAO. Hey, thanks for working for us for 10 years. Here's 10 cents of extra pay. In lieu of raises, have a pizza party. And by party we mean get one slice of pizza and eat it while you work. How dental and eye care isn't included in health insurance. Same in the Netherlands, they're under an add-on package. You Americans seem to have both the smartest and the stupidest humans on earth coexisting in your country. I think that happens everywhere. We're just louder than other countries in the media sphere. The moralization of poverty is, and if you're poor it is your own fault. MMDDYY. MMDD is nice because it naturally sorts itself in a list. But for most purposes the year is the least important aspect, so we don't want to see it first. Edit. I changed YYYYMMDD to YYYYMMDD because all the ISO dweebs were after me. I wasn't really focusing on the separators, I was simply trying to comment on the sortability of YMD. But yes, the hyphens are friendlier to filler systems. Edit 2. Stop suggesting that DDMMYYYY is also naturally sortable. It is not. You would get a list with a whole bunch of 01 at the beginning that cycles through every month of every year before clicking over to 02 dart. If you're rich you get all the help and preference you could ever need, but if you are struggling or poor then fuck you and you don't deserve a single thing. Just work harder. It's as backwards as can be. Having to go back to work 6 weeks after having a baby. It's almost criminal to expect that, but so many women have to. Thankful to live in Canada for that reason. A lot of women go to work sooner than that. Most maternity leave isn't paid, and they can't afford to miss any paychecks. How there is no federal guarantee for things like PTO, sick leave and paid maternity leave. Edit, I am from the USA. As far as I can find no state guarantees it either. There are laws on if vacation is offered and regulations surrounding that. But no state says you must offer a minimum amount of PTO. Edit 2. By PTO I mean paid vacation. There are several states with requirements for sick leave. My company refers to PTO and sick leave separately and I did not make that distinction. Living to work. Don't get paid enough to just work to live. We'd all cut back on work if it didn't mean immediate financial ruin. Bathroom stall doors. Why is there such a giant gap? No one wants to see someone taking shit. No one wants to be watched taking a shit. Who is this for? Tipping being for some reason seen as mandatory, to the extent that people say if you can't afford to tip 10% or more then you shouldn't even go out. Edit, people assuming for some reason that I'm American? No idea why I would be writing this comment if I was American. I'm not, and that's why your culture that expects customers to pay waiters instead of the restaurants paying them properly is utterly fucking insane to me. Edit, learned from this comment that in much of America, servers do not get the minimum wage and literally rely on tips to afford food and housing. This is news to me and I'll be a lot more considerate of American servers now that I know. I had assumed that it was like most countries, where the waiters are paid a standard wage and get tips as a bonus, which is why I felt that it was entitled to expect a large tip from every customer. So my new answer to the original question is I can't comprehend how American servers are paid well under minimum wage and it's treated as normal. Restaurants are allowed to pay their staff under minimum wage under the assumption that tips make up for it. Changing the laws to outlaw that would be a significant step in eliminating tipping culture. How you find the word cunt so offensive. This one is funny to me. When I, American, studied abroad in college, I was hanging out with an Australian girl and several American girls and the Aussie said something like I love you cunts or something. I'd had a little exposure to it being used positively in other English speaking countries, so I wasn't immediately offended but most of the rest were. We quickly sorted it out and it was just a funny experience of studying abroad and people having different cultural norms. Why do we have to work so much all the time? Deleted. Having retail cashiers ask, would you like to donate to certain charity to help kids with terminal illness? 1. That business is just getting a tax break. 2. I can donate to that charity myself. 3. I can say no but it feels like everyone in listening distance looks at me like I'm a piece of shit. They made politics into a sporting spectacle. It's now your team vs my team mentality and if you aren't with me you're against me. It polarized politics so much. We work until we die. As an American, how disgustingly gullible so many people are. They swallow everything the media shovels at them. Amazing and terrifying.